either revolutionaries or radicals or people investing in this work. How does your art, or how can art in general create the kind of spaces we need and the kinds of organs of power that we need to bring about abolition, to overthrow capitalism, what have you?
I'm gonna go. Part of my work is the Victoria is building economic power within the community. Our building is a community love story. Our building is 1915 it was created. It was a silent movie theater for 5 years, then it became like a cafe slash I don't know, speakeasy, and then it was a lighting store for several years. And at some point in the early 2000s, they were going to demolish this building, and they were going to turn it into a parking lot because everything that Rondo and Frogtown needs is another parking lot, which I'm assuming would probably need to facilitate people from outside the community using the Green Line, which is also a source of gentrification in the Rondo Frogtown community, so that they can get around, not thinking about what the community needs and the changing landscape of the community and what that does to the psyche of the people that live there. And so I can't speak on every issue you address because it's not my wheelhouse, but my wheelhouse is anti-gentrification. And I think that building community power, so basically a group of artists, activists, and organizers decided we want to save this building. So they lobbied, they got this building to be a local heritage site, so they cannot actually destroy the building. And so through our capital campaign, the bank holds the building for us right now, but we are just short of our goal by maybe about $1.5 million to own this building. So this building will be owned by the community. I think that's important, and that's why I got swept up into. I got swept up in the whole magic of Victoria. I feel like not necessarily destroying capitalism, but at least allowing economic empowerment through ownership of the spaces. Believe me, they are being rebuilt, and none of us are part of that conversation. I can guarantee you, the Midway is being it's being rebuilt by the same person who owns that big stadium that they put there that nobody wanted there. Yeah. And so when I think about that, I can't say how you destroy capitalism or how you do any of that, but I do know on a local level, if we could retain more ownership of spaces like this, where we have spaces that we're running, that we're contributing, that we have the community has a voice in say in what happens there. Believe me, I feel like people will feel more empowered and will do a lot more for themselves within that space of their community because they own it. Title ownership is real. And I think the problem is we have too many forces, whether it be the police that are living out in Oakdale, Woodbury, Bloomington, they come into South Minneapolis, they come into Rondo, they come into Frogtown, and they police like beasts, like we are beasts, versus being part of the community, like having ownership in that community, like they are part of the community. They know little Johnny and Raphael because they knew their dad and they went to school with them at Central High School or wherever. That's not what's happening right now. So I think what I like about my work is it is centered on, being of the community and that economic empowerment. I hope that more and more of us think about making collectives. Using collective power is very powerful. I think a lot of times we feel like we have to go it alone, but if you can find like-minded individuals that are as passionate about owning something or building something like this space, sitting in this space right now, unbelievable. Thank you for everyone who's involved in creating this space. I think that's what's going to change because if we own the spaces, they can't take that away. That's something that we can lead ourselves in. So that's why I say my work. I think about that, the forced gentrification. I also live downtown LA for a long period of time, and I watched what they've done, to the homeless population here, most of which are disabled vets and people who have issues with mental health, and the way that they've been ushered into open air asylums downtown LA. I see it happening here too with the homeless encampments, how they're shifting back and forth. I think that how we tackle that is that we keep on focusing on us owning and operating the things and the systems that are going on within the microcosms of these little communities, and us, making partnerships across the river and across these, outside of our neighborhoods, so that we have a united front in us defeating these bigger entities that really, really just want to drain us for our money.
Are there any other questions from the
Can we write all of y'all information down somewhere where all of us can get it? Follow y'all on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that. Absolutely. And what I was thinking about with those economic opportunities, right? I was just chopping it up with the brothers who formed the Freedom Fighters, the group of individuals who were protecting the black businesses on the north side in the midst of the mayhem. And I was just chopping it up with the brothers, picking their brains, seeing what can we do to really start to help amplify their movement and start to push safety model, right? Because, like you said, going back to collective field, we got different sectors in our community of individuals who are working towards the same goal. Like I said, with me being a bridge, I see different partnerships that can be formed and we can come together and we can mobilize community to put pressure on these different elected officials who have the say-so of different funding that's being allocated to our community or the laws that need to be passed. We can really put the pressure on to get these things changed, but before we do that, we got to have an agenda. We got to have a plan. So back to what you said about businesses like this, right? Being able to come together and really start to create and manifest together. And then after doing that, two words come to mind for me is sustainability, right? It's one thing to get that space. It's one thing to secure that dream. But are we talking about sustainability? Are we envisioning what the next 5 years are going to look like, right? And then another word that comes to mind is protection. Because we know about the history of black wealth that's been done before. I got a line in my song that said, ain't no justice from that outside, that's only within. And more about people see it that way when we go in. I mean, we already warmed up feeling the victimhood, that disconnected, miseducated, and so misunderstood. And what I was saying in that is that we didn't just come from slavery. We are great and powerful individuals. And our existence alone is an abundance of light, an abundance of manifestation, an abundance of building. And I feel like it's either reparations or revolution. But before we get reparations, we need restoration. We need to restore our identity, restore our existence, restore our power, reclaim that. And then, before we can have revolution, we must have revelation as well. So, in the context of public safety, yes, sustainability is going to be a major key. And I also want to throw this out because we also mentioned about the police officers and whatnot. I really want to start to get the conversation going of us creating a bill that we can get passed through law that states that police officers can only serve protecting communities that they reside in. Because with every other elected official, it's like, hey, you can't run for office unless you live in that city. So it should be the same for those public servants who are doing this community safety. And yeah, I just want to throw that out there. We're going to get that vision.
All right. Any other questions? I have one more question I would just love to hear y'all's thoughts on. When cooperation isn't easy, right? How do we sort of get through that, right? When collective projects aren't easy, right? How do we sort of sit in the moments when we are on the same page about things, or the moments where we want to cooperate, but there may be tension, right? And so any sort of reflections or thoughts, and if this inspires any questions too, when the moments when cooperation is stressful or it's heavy or it's, any sort of thoughts on moments when collective projects are way on us and what's available to us to do that. Folks in the space.
I'll just say, I keep on joking to my friends that like after, like, one day I hope to be the kind of leader that I transition out of my role as co-executive director and to transition someone else into that. And I joke and say like, I'm gonna have a non-collaborative. I'm gonna be a freelancer. I'm gonna do stuff for myself. I live on my little island and contribute to the movement, but I'm gonna take on a little project nobody has opinions about, and just do it. And it's really it's a joke. It's probably not like my heart, won't let me do that, but my brain is like, girl, you do something right. But I just think that it's oftentimes when whatever work, how do we just get through it so we can get back to the work? And I think some of my hardest felt lessons have been in trying to do that and how miserably I failed in doing. I'm from the East Coast, so we're very direct on the East Coast, and it was a learning curve to be here, but if you disagree versus like spilling tea with someone else over here. Because like I actually want to be in it with you. I want to know why you disagree and then actually offer you my opinion on why I disagree or whatever. And I think we really have to invite that spirit into the work. And I just think we get through these moments together so that we can start to dream about what is that infrastructure at a citywide, at a statewide, at a national level that helps us get through conflict and harm together. And so like that is really the for me the big deep piece. And then the second piece I would just say is like vision. I do think it's important that you are collaborating with folks who have a shared vision and values. And it's okay not to collaborate with everybody because not everybody has the same values or vision. And I think sometimes we try and force it because we're like, oh, well, we're all Black. And it's like, but no, baby, I'm trying to get to this in a different way. And like, I'm going to respect you and I'm going to have a grace for your work. And I'm not going to tear you down. I'm going to call you in if I think you're doing something fucked up, though. If I think you're actually just leading a solution that's going to reinforce the police, I'm going to pull you to the side and be like, let's talk about this because this is not it, right? But I'm not going to call you out on social media, but I'm also going to be like, and they're over here doing their work. And so I think that that's a piece of collaboration that I've definitely had to learn. And yeah, getting over ourselves and our egos, that's the last thing I'll say to
Ooh,
it.
I was about to say that, so I'm just gonna echo literally everything you just said, but, I will also throw in there that I really crave collaboration and cooperation because my studio practice is very solitary. So like, I look forward to not leading because I have to in my own studio practice and a lot of other spaces, so like, I think being a really good collaborator does require you to set aside ego and also know when you don't need to be taken up all space. Right? Like being able to dial that up and down. So like even if I like feel like my idea is the best idea, like being able to step back and allow space for other folks, maybe who haven't been doing the work for that long, but like just because of your presence, they may not speak up, right? Like creating space for others to grow in the work. So yeah, figuring out how much space to take up is something that's really interesting for me. And then one other thing I wanted to mention is like, yeah, collaborating is something that I really like yearn for because I don't have that, but it is also a muscle that you need to stretch, like and work out. And there is this amazing PDF, Springboard has it, it's like a guide to working in community in the arts. It's a free PDF online if you want to like look up strategies of what it's like, not just to collaborate with other organizers, but also people in your community, right? So what is it like to step into community, into other people's neighborhoods or whatever, and work collaboratively with them? There's some really good strategies in that too.
What's the name of that again?
If you go on Springboard for the arts website, I can't remember the exact name, but it's like, yeah, working in community and the arts. Something along those lines, yeah.
I feel like I have something to add, but my thoughts aren't like fully formed in it, so I'll just say what I have, which is like when I was thinking about what you're saying about being in principal struggle with people who like don't have, or when your ideas are conflicting with the way that you're moving in or navigating is conflicting. I was thinking about the ways that like white supremacy shows up in our relationships to each other, and when you find someone who's like of a different mindset, and then you just think like, oh, I need to distance myself versus being in relationship with them still, and still having that mutual respect, that mutual accountability, and staying in community together. Because yeah, like you said, this person can be doing a little bit here, and it might look different, and we don't always understand the intricacies of like when our work is playing off each other, like we said earlier. And I think that there's an amount of like, again, grace and speed of like getting to know that person, and instead of saying like, oh, I'm going to be now closed off, like there might be a disconnect in this one thing, but so much overlap in some of these other places. And I think that it's like getting at our experiences, which are very diverse. Blackness is not a monolith. And really getting at like, oh, how did you come to have a lived experience where that is the solution that you think is practical? And then, you know, how can we bridge something here of like, that would not be well for me, you know, that would be harmful, and how can I explain that to you? And I think it's like sharing our stories, there's just such a level of disconnect and discommunication where, you know, when we're not in relationship with each other, and then that creates really significant gaps, not just like among generations, because you see it with our elders, right? But then even with each other, there's a disconnect. And I think sometimes it's like the simplest things of, you know, someone might post something, and you're like, oh, damn, that ain't right. But then instead of like messaging someone and being like, hey, I saw this thing. Why did you post that? Why did you post that? You know, like it's the simplest things, right? Or even like thinking of even coming out of this weekend around the verdict and people kind of being divisive around like whether or not that was accountability and justice, and people being really feeling really tense in that, because that's in your heart space of having those feelings. And actually, it's like you can continue to be in those feelings and still be in a relationship with each other and still talk about and talk through like how we're feeling to further understand each other. So I think those are my pieces.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Mine's really quick, and it's something that I've thought about a lot lately. Our issue at Victoria is we have so many people that are involved in so many things that it is hard to schedule a meeting with the people we need to be in the same time. Like that is like the main thing that we struggle with, and also too just in general, I'm a project manager, director. So I would think about utilizing AI and resources that are available to us now. Technology is very important. Things like Microsoft Project, if y'all know how to use that program, that's great to delegate and do scheduling. And I know a lot of us are grassroots and we don't use some of that kind of stuff because we're just used to doing it. And yeah, if y'all have any suggestions on how to get a bunch of busy Black folks together in one spot, I don't know how to how we do that yet.
Zoom.
Changing the changing the times and stuff around, but I think we also have to do. I'm sorry. Also too, just being creative. Like we do have a BIPOC advisory board, and again, we have a lot of dynamic people of color on that board, and it's like we've tried to split up our meetings. Or one time we just couldn't get together. It's like, can everyone just reply to these responses to a video, to a drawing? Finding other ways to have your meetings and connect that don't require physical presence or even like internet presence. I think that flexibility of creativity and using like Google Calendar and all that's so important. And it's, a lot of that's right there, but we're just not used to using it because some of us are working from home and we're doing like very grassroots, so it feels really personal, our work. But these bigger businesses are using these same AIs to, strategize over super huge projects. And what we're doing, if you think about it, are super huge projects, if you're thinking about how we're all interconnected. So I would suggest that all of us start to become more aware of these technologies and start using them and be more creative on the ways, like, do we actually have to have this meeting? Do I have to be at that meeting? Please let me know if I have to be there or not. Or is this something that can be done in a different way? So I think that's another way of like collaborating that I think we are all struggling with during this pandemic. I just want to put that out there. Working in a Google Docs instead of a meeting. Yeah.
For the last question.
Oh, so I kind of lost it because I was really like tuned in what she said. But I just wanted to just to mention so there's so many different trials and so many different things that are in the media right now. And I feel like it's really important for us to give each other grace when we're having these conversations where, we're adverse to somebody else because they may not be open yet to what you're saying, but we're obtaining so much information all at the same time. So you have to give people grace and let them process the information, you hear what you said, and see what they read or maybe they saw so that they can process what you're trying to say, gain some understanding.
Absolutely, yeah. Any other thoughts before we go on? Absolutely. Oh, yes.
It's nice meeting you all. I'm sorry I didn't know who you all were. And I think it's very important that we give you a chance to keep in touch with you all, and also be able to collaborate with you all. Because I think it's very important to what I have learned as an entrepreneur is that it was hard for you to get the information. Either people are too busy or they can give you good, bad, and ugly. They can give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They give you 2, 6, 7, 2, 8, 9, 10. They can give you the in between. So I think that's important that with like-minded people that we all collaborate with each other and get to know who each other are and be able to collaborate with you guys so that we can glean from you all and you all can glean from us. And you all will be able to discern because you are in this community, you are doing this, you have been doing this, you'll be able to discern who's real, who's not, who's playing, who's not, who's dependent, who's not, and be able to weed them out. And that's what I'm doing, weeding out, the fake and the real. And also remembering that those of us that have not been, I'm behind the scenes person, but those of us that are not in the forefront, and those that are coming up, that you remember that everybody has to start somewhere. So we need to be able to give that person that chance. So yeah, I would very much like to make sure I keep in touch with you all. And glad to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Can we give it up for our panel one time? We're gonna take like a 5-minute break, and then we gathered for quote making, facilitated by Paige from the Million Artists Movement. So see y'all in 5 minutes. 5 minutes break.
Also, like, have you been doing that exercise where you like look back in time and you're like, okay, what was the last wedding I went to? What was the last party? What was the last day? And their wedding was like the last like following up before the pandemic. I've had multiple friends that have been. Man, I love green circles. I'm so excited to see what they do too. And like, it's like, artists, huh? You like those ones? Okay, so we know that we get our question. What are some conversations about like in the sense of like abolition well, and they make it difficult to like figure it out. Like I think it's like how our community is set up. It's like it's so hard to
Same amount.
oh, yeah. Well, that's not me. That's similar.
Yeah, similar. Right.
Well, yeah, it's I'm really excited like right now because it does it is just a lot of covering. Like when you work with the charter, right? It's like okay, just informal. So you like I what is that work we've been doing around like I know
All right, powerful people. We're gonna bring it back in a few minutes. We're gonna bring it back for the last thing of the day. It's gonna be a same format with new material and another panel of people. All right, powerful people. If we could return to our seats for the last thing today. All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all being here. Gonna bring it back. No future without art. We talked about so many things today. We talked about so many things. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank y'all for being here. For this 2-day training, we're going to be tomorrow.
Liberation, why? The white supremacy feels. How we gonna get it? We listen, we learn, we study how we struggle. Yeah, that's the love part and politics. Blue, blue, black, brown, indigenous artists, folks who will fight for the cause. A million artists, movements, let me tell you what it's all about. Without black liberation, without discrimination, I'm sure you need it. Need that revolution. Why? 'Cause the system keeping us down. How we gonna get it? We fight, we teach, we build our resistance. Well, in streets, in schools, and everywhere. Go, go, black, brown, indigenous artists, folks who will fight for the cause. 'Cause we are a million artists, movement, let me tell you what we're all about. We're about black liberation without discrimination. I'm sure you need it now. Yeah, I sure do need it now. Oh, yeah, you sure do need it now. Oh, yeah, you sure do need it now. I love singing that song because it's just better than all these words about who really hard is moving it. The song says it right there. We are a group of Black and indigenous-led artists with allies who are now in the cause in there. Million Artist Movement is a cooperative, like Black Table Arts. Shout out to co-op. And that's also pretty recently that was officially made so after years and years of studying together, doing different arts projects together, building college together.
Also, this is good.
So,
Everything.
I am Paige. Paige Reynolds. My pronouns are she, her, and they, them. Look up about me. I am from Detroit. I moved here about 3 years ago, and I immediately got involved with the artist movement maybe right after that. But I've been an artist for a long time. I've been interested in Black liberation for a long time. So it was a natural fit once I got here. And one of the main things that Million Artist Movement started doing together right from the beginning was this quilt making project that we call Power Tree Quilts. So there's a lot of imagery behind the power tree that you see on the quilts here, that you see on my shirt, that has to do with the roots and
branches and the leaves and the water that's necessary for our movements and for our people. But the quilt fair making started in, I wasn't there, so I gotta remember the year 2014, 2015, something like that. And they were really, the people who started it were really looking for a community arts project that could be done together, be a lot of people, and when you put it all together, you can like see that a lot of hands went into it. You can see that like everyone was able to make their own unique mark on it. So they were inspired by the legacy of Black quilt makers, people who quilted just for art's sake and for expression, but also more freedom, coding messages into the symbolism of the quilts, telling people what places were safe for them to go, and the Underground Railroad, conveying other deep imagery, some of it being even local to really specific Black areas. And also inspired by projects like the AIDS quilting project, and like all those hundreds of thousands of quilt squares that were put together. So now, like maybe 6, 7 years later, there are dozens and dozens of quilts. We recently did a project of putting them all, like, hanging them all up on a shelf, not a shelf, hanging them all up on a fence. So we can take, like, professional pictures of them and have really nice photos of all the ones we've done throughout the years. And when I say, like, it went down, like, a whole block, and, like, wrapped around the corner. And in chronological order, we also had, you know what, let me get with y'all, let you, what you get from the club. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna have you, hopefully come to some conclusions when you look at them. So, I brought a few quilts with me. I want to talk about how we use them to organize, especially when we show up in spaces that are really charged. A lot of the time is when quilts have been there, especially for the making. The two that you see up here, these were both made at George Floyd Square over the summer. So you'll see that represented. And I have a couple others that I believe are from different places and times. I don't think they have labels on them, but if you look at them real close, you may be able to figure out when and where they were made. So without much further ado, I'm going to lay out a couple of them, and we're just going to get into like some small little groups to look at them, and then we'll come back and we'll share that way, instead of me talking on and on about what you should see in the course. I want y'all to look at them and make your own conclusions, all right? So I'm going to lay one out there, kind of in the middle of the floor, so people can look at down here. And then I need to ask you a question. Yes. Are any of these tools tactile? Are they tactile for what you're having if you don't? Oh, yeah. Some of them are. Some of them are. So you'll notice there's a variety of materials in order to make the filmmaking accessible to folks who don't necessarily have sewing skills, or to like really small children. So some of them have stitch-on letters. Some of them have stitch-on letters for the people who are more advanced sewers. Because I'm blind? Yes. 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 Some of them are like the ones that are painted on. Yeah.
Go around and say,
So maybe in like a small.
yeah.
Sure, yeah, we'll put into small groups. So there are banners at the top of each of them that are painted. Those can also be felt. You can feel the paint on them. Anything that's painted is tactile. You can also feel it. They're done with like acrylic paints and stuff like that that sits on top of the fabric. And I can also find the ones that have more stitching on them. Okay. Yeah. So there you'll see like a wide variety of, yeah, I wish I could say yes or no if they're tactile, but they were really made with all different types of materials, different kinds of
I'll lay out one more. And then how about if you're closest to this corner over here, I'm not going to be very particular about how you split yourselves up. If you feel drawn to a particular field, great, but otherwise, if you are, yeah, you take the one that's closest to you or move around. Either way.
Because if someone had writing and it's said out loud, is that what it seems to be? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That means that there's
There's some what?
a way for me to know that some of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and however, if there's anything else that I can explain about the books or about the squares, it will take about 10 minutes to process, and then we'll come back. And you can talk amongst yourselves about it too. You don't have to be quiet. Let me know if I can move any of them around for you also. If somebody has right now. Because it's sick. Several of them, all of them have some type of
Some type of writing,
Mm-hmm.
because it's said it out loud.
Yeah, so the one you're standing in front of now, there's a lot of writing. Yeah, it looks like. Yeah, you better get out right now. I can also switch them and
No, bring it. No, I mean, be careful and mindful of the people in the space. If nobody know where it is, to not walk on.
you're good. Just
Don't walk on it.
Don't step on nothing right now. Don't step on one yet.
So to be able to walk, but not step on it. And there is writing on it, because they're talking. And when I go put it on them, but you could, it's horrible, you too. It's writing. But, are you gonna lay out every book or just time?
There are two, there's one. There's one in front of you draped over chairs.
But it's writing.
Directly in front of you, that one has writing on it too. So you said no way?
There is,
Yes.
it's sort of like, oh, there's a,
Yeah, so.
I was just looking at your shirt like, I'm gonna need that. What, 2 minutes? I need all of that.
Is that
Alexis probably one of my favorites. Yes,
You missed it. We had a whole church sale. In the beginning, I saw it. I should have straightened a little bit.
People learn to sing
I like that. Because you're well bringing up the right. So the more activity, the better I am. And yes, the better the better. I'm happy. You know, you think about it, I said, yes, I'm happy, but I probably would make it more. Walking on this thing, look. No.
All right, y'all. Like 10 more minutes.
No, those are mostly the mom. But as I'm thinking about it, the top factor is we just got more and more material over the years to put in things.
Yeah. The black grandmother used to do batting. That's the batting part. That's not the mind. That's not actually because that's how I it is a factor. I like this. Very good. Well, no, make sure you have some energy. That is tactful. Hi. I love that it's tactful.
Go.
What about 10 minutes? Oh, the minutes. All right, y'all, we're gonna come back together.
Yes, indeed. Just for a quick checkout.
Yep.
Quick checkout today. Yes, indeed. Gonna circle up one more time before we close this training out. Can we get some snaps for y'all?
Yes.
You know, I know it's been a lot of material and ideas talking about Black liberation work. So could we just, as a sort of closeout ritual, say our names, remind each other of our names, and just just one thing that stuck out. And again, so this is a 2-day training, so we'll be back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. Getting complete these ideas. But just to have a go around, say our names, or just anything that resonated with us from the panel discussion, the work from Tony K. Bambara, something on this quilt. Anything that sort of resonated. Anyone who wants to bring. Yeah.
Laura, I go by Laura the Creative on Instagram, and I love that everything that's kind of a consistent theme is kind of healing and communion with one another, and that is seen in the interdisciplinary just medium of all types of arts, the way we move our bodies, the way we decide to put things into creation. We're creators and storytellers, so I needed this, and I didn't know I needed this. So I just appreciate everybody and even you for the space, bro. So
Thank you for being here.
Right.
Well, real quick, I just had deja vu. Crazy. But name's I go by Rio. Name's Toby, but I go by Rio. Rio Ballard. Do music, collage, art. And one thing that I truly love about this is just seeing our people together and like making that environment and building that energy and support for each other. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maya. This is Abstract Purpose Black Corporation. I really love the energy here, the positivity, and well, I didn't know I needed this. What is what's needed to be among artists of different disciplines and the respect factor. That is really big. Not competing, but respect factor. And I really love this. I had a couple of questions about the clothing. It kind of brings me back to my childhood in some areas. But this is a very necessary good statement also in our culture. So, thank you for sharing.
My name is Simone, and one thing that I take away is the word cooperation and how we're all together and
can lean on you, you can lean on me. And there's so many different artists and so many people that are doing things that I never even heard of. And I'm so glad that I was able to make like so many different connections and give people social media and networks, and hopefully I will see them.
There you go. Absolutely.
My name is Delphina, you call me Del, and I just love being a part of this whole experience and being on this positive energy and seeing the heart poured out of these quilts and the heart poured out from all the people here. And hope to see you all again and reconnect.
My name is Joshua. I'm from Nigeria. Came visiting family and friends here. So for me, it's all about the vulnerability and the ability to share. I love the panel session where everyone was sharing about grace. Like sometimes as organizers, we forget to extend grace to ourselves. And it was something that I really love, and I really appreciate the togetherness here.
Katie, here, I was not here the whole day, but I loved the part that I was able to catch, and it really, I wasn't sure of the name, because I did not get to catch their name, but they were talking about economic power and holding things together in the city. Okay, Sydney, yeah, that's what they were talking about, and it got me thinking about how we do that as artists. Like sometimes it can feel like art and finances are only things are two different things, but it inspired me to keep talking about that and what it looks like for artists to have ownership over our work, over our spaces, have more and more places like Black Table Arts where we can come together and organize.
I appreciate that, absolutely.
Hi, I'm Rashonda, and I just appreciate the space of people just being open. Like we're in a time where everybody's stressed out. Everything, especially in Minnesota, everything moving in Minnesota is in the limelight of the globe, not just the United States. Like everybody, everywhere is watching Minnesota. So I just want to encourage everybody, that are organizers in particular, give yourself grace. Be patient with yourself, be gentle with yourself as you go through your process, and just know that you're doing your best, whatever that looks like.
How can I pronounce your name again?
Rashonda.
Peace, my name is Imagine Joy. Like Joshua and Rashonda, it was the grace for me. Our Lord tells us that we must know our enemies. And I say that because the lack of grace is something that actually moves forward the agenda of whiteness, the parasitic nature of whiteness. It won't allow us to evolve. We can't evolve without that grace, without extending that to ourselves and to one another, and knowing that we must hold ourselves accountable while still recognizing that there's war. And we haven't even tapped into, we haven't even felt it yet. So it's just the grace for me.
It was a leg. Well, my name is Donna Gray, and I am very happy to be here because I let all the younger people feel like I'm an older person about what's going on now. And then I am a ceramics, and I'm coming up with new ideas to work with the community. And I think that my zip code project will flourish.
Yes. Absolutely. And can we give it up for ourselves for participating in this 2019 shout out? So you are at the Black Cigars Cooperative. It's okay what you can co-op. We are going to be here tomorrow, people, talking about these ideas of the role of creativity in the grassroots. How do we get our people together on our own terms to practice joy? We know the only way to protect joy is to practice it, and it's been a joy to be with you all. Thank you all so much. Feel free to hang out. We will be here tomorrow at 11 a.m. for the second day of No. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm probably not, I might not be here.
is we could do the paper square thing. What do you do? Because we didn't do it. So I walk on